The atmosphere at the five-star Lumiere restaurant was thick with the scent of money and exclusivity. Into this world stepped Alexandra Hayes, the notorious district attorney known to many as the Ice Queen. She walked with precision, dragging her young son Ethan along, not for a family bonding moment, but as a prop for her public image. Ethan, small and trembling, looked at his mother for affection, but found only cold instructions to behave. Meanwhile, a mistake at the entrance brought Jordan Martinez and her daughter Lily into this lion's den. Jordan, a hard-working single mother, juggling 2 jobs, had intended to treat Lily to a modest pasta dinner next door to celebrate a school achievement. But once seated under the golden chandeliers of Lumiere, Jordan realized the error. The menu prices were devastating. She had $300 saved from months of sacrifice, and the cheapest dish was nearly $400. Fear gripped her throat. She wanted to run, to explain the mistake. But then she saw Lily's eyes, wide with wonder at the fairy tale setting. In that moment, Jordan swallowed her pride and her panic. She decided she would risk financial ruin and humiliation rather than crush her daughter's joy. 2 mothers, 2 worlds, seated just feet apart. One rich in money but poor in love, the other struggling to survive but overflowing with devotion. The 5-star restaurant Lumiere shimmered with a breathtaking elegance that felt designed to exclude. Golden chandeliers glowed brilliantly from the high ceilings, their light reflecting off the ice-gold diamond jewelry adorning the neck and wrists of Alexandra Hayes. At 32, she was the notoriously cold district attorney, a woman who entered the main dining room not with a stroll, but with measured, calculated steps. Every movement radiated absolute authority, the kind of raw power that makes conversations cease and heads turn, with a potent mixture of admiration and fear. Alexandra wore a black designer dress that costs more than most American families earned in a month. Her dark hair was pulled back in an impeccable bun, severe and tight, without a single strand out of place. Her makeup was professional armor, designed to project control without revealing a flicker of emotion. She was the living image of relentless prosecutorial success. But walking beside her was a small, trembling anchor to her reality. Her 6-year-old son, Ethan. He clutched desperately at the edge of her expensive dress, his knuckles white. He had the same dark eyes as his mother, but where hers were hard as steel, his reflected pure vulnerability. "Mom," he whispered, his voice trembling as he looked around the room filled with elegantly dressed strangers. "There are too many people here. Can we go home, please?" Alexandra barely glanced down. Her attention was already fixed on the private VIP section at the back, a space reserved away from prying eyes. "Ethan, behave yourself," she responded, her voice cold and distant. "We are here because I need certain people to see me in a more accessible environment. It is important for my public image. Now walk straight and stop clinging to me." The boy flinched at her tone, but held on tighter, a small ghost haunting a woman who had no time for miles away, in a world that might as well have been a different galaxy. Jordan Martinez was living a life that any reasonable person would describe as exhausting. At 36, her existence was a constant juggling act, balancing two demanding jobs that consumed her waking hours. From 8 in the morning until 5 in the afternoon, she navigated the hellish traffic of New York City as a delivery driver, hauling packages to corporate offices she could never dream of entering as a guest. The work was physically demanding and paid just enough to cover the rent on a small apartment in Queens. But that salary didn't cover the extra nutritious food, clothes for a growing girl, or the 1,000 small emergencies of life. So, from 7 in the evening until midnight, Jordan worked as a maintenance worker in a Manhattan office complex. She scrubbed marble floors and polished the desks of executives who earned in a month what she earned in a year. She arrived home past midnight, exhausted to the bone, only to wake up at 6 to start it all over again. It was an endless hamster wheel, but she ran it with love because every sacrifice was for her daughter, Lily. Jordan had been a single mother since Lily was 2, ever since her wife Rebecca died in a surgery that should have been routine. The grief was a fog she still walked through, but Lily was her beacon, and this Saturday was special. Lily, who had battled paralyzing shyness for years, had won first place in her school's speech contest. Jordan had saved for 3 months, hiding crumpled $10 and $20 bills in a glass jar, accumulating exactly $300 to give her daughter a night of triumph. The plan was simple: dinner at the Corner Bistro, a cozy, affordable Italian spot next to the ultra-exclusive Lumiere. But fate, or perhaps a simple error, intervened. When they arrived at the plaza, a young, disorganized waiter greeted them. Confused and rushing, he ushered Jordan and Lily not into the bistro, but through the imposing glass doors of Lumiere. Jordan realized the mistake the moment the heavy doors closed behind them, sealing out the noise of the street and sealing them inside a world of hushed tones and violin music. Her heart sank to her stomach. She opened her mouth to explain, to apologize, to back out, but the waiter had already pulled out chairs at a small, discreet table hidden behind decorative columns. "Here are your menus. Enjoy your dinner," the young man said cheerfully, vanishing before Jordan could protest. She sat frozen. The leather menu felt heavy in her hands, like a judgment. She opened it slowly, fear coiling in her chest. The numbers on the page seemed to mock her. The cheapest entree was $450. The second cheapest, $520. She had $300 in her worn wallet. It wasn't just insufficient, it was a fraction of what was needed. Panic, hot and sharp, paralyzed her. She imagined the humiliation of standing up now. She imagined finding a manager, explaining that they were poor, that this was a mistake. She imagined being escorted out past the wealthy diners, the shame burning her cheeks while Lily watched. She looked across the table at her daughter. Lily was oblivious to the financial catastrophe unfolding in her mother's mind. Her large brown eyes darted around the room, mesmerized by the crystal glasses reflecting the light like rainbows. "Mum, look at the lights," she whispered with reverent wonder. "It's like being inside a real fairy tale palace." Jordan looked at Lily's face, glowing with a happiness she hadn't seen in so long. She thought of the glass jar, the months of scrubbing floors, the exhaustion, the grief. She looked at the menu again, then at her daughter's shining eyes. She couldn't crush this. Not tonight. Not on the night of her victory. Jordan made a decision that defied logic, but defined motherhood. She would stay, she would order the cheapest thing she could find, pray, and if the bill was too high, she would offer her ID, her phone, anything as collateral. She would endure whatever humiliation came later, as long as Lily got to eat in the palace for just 1 hour. She reached across the table and took Lily's hand, her own trembling slightly. "You deserve palaces, my love," Jordan said softly, pushing the panic down deep where it couldn't be seen. "You deserve all of this and so much more." Chapter 2. As Alexandra Hayes strode toward the sanctuary of her private VIP booth, a flicker of movement caught her peripheral vision, stopping her cold. In a discreet, shadowed corner of the main dining room, hidden behind a column, sat Jordan and Lily. Jordan was cutting spaghetti with infinite patience and absolute maternal concentration, while Lily laughed with a pure, total abandon that Alexandra hadn't heard in years, maybe never. The sound was unfiltered, coming from a soul unburdened by social judgment. Ethan, clutching his mother's dress, became instantly mesmerized. He froze, his large dark eyes fixed on the small table as if he had stumbled upon a scene of magic. He finally released his mother's expensive fabric. "Mum," he murmured, his voice full of a longing that tightened painfully in Alexandra's chest. "I want to sit with them. Please, Mum. I want to be with that girl." Alexandra frowned, fighting a confusing mixture of irritation and something she refused to name. "Ethan, stop staring at that humble table right now," she ordered. "We have our own reservation." But Ethan did something unprecedented. He planted his feet firmly on the Italian marble and shook his head with fierce determination. "I don't want to go to the private room where we're always alone," he said. "I want to sit with that girl. She looks really happy, Mum. Not fake happy like in the photos." The raw truth of his words shattered Alexandra's professional facade. Swallowing her pride, she approached the humble table. "My son wishes to sit here," she stated, her voice cold but yielding. Lily, completely unaware of the magnitude of the moment, clapped with spontaneous joy. "Yes, of course, sit here with us. What's your name, Ethan?" he whispered shyly. "I'm Lily. Do you want to be my friend?" The two children plunged instantly into an accelerated conversation about dinosaurs. Triceratops versus Tyrannosaurus Rex, and the magic of gravity falls. Ethan lit up like a switch had been thrown, letting out a free, joyful laugh that Alexandra realized she hadn't heard in entire months. The two mothers, from worlds so radically opposite they might as well have been from different planets, were left immersed in a heavy, uncomfortable silence. Jordan, in her simple mended shirt, had no idea how to address one of the most powerful women in the country. Alexandra had no idea how to speak to anyone outside her calculated professional context. The only thing that connected them across the enormous chasm separating their realities was the fierce, absolute love for the children laughing beside them. Then came the moment that shattered Alexandra entirely. Ethan leaned over, his eyes fixed on Jordan's working hands. "Ma'am," he asked, his voice loaded with an urgent, deep need. "Can you cut my pasta too, please? Like you cut Lily's?" Time seemed to stop. Alexandra froze. Her son had never asked for such intimate, personal help from anyone outside his highly trained nanny. She watched, fascinated, as Jordan's hand-strong, capable, marked by the calluses of constant manual labor, moved with extraordinary delicacy. They cut the spaghetti into perfect, manageable pieces. A devastating realization hit Alexandra with the force of a freight train, despite her power. Her unlimited money and her personal teams, she had systematically outsourced affection. She had delegated the profound moments of physical and emotional connection. Jordan, with barely enough money for rent, offered something no amount of wealth could buy: genuine, authentic presence. But the scene of pure connection did not go unnoticed. A group of high-level government officials, seated prominently nearby, began to notice the incongruous scene. Whispers circulated like venomous snakes. "Is that District Attorney Hayes? Who is that other woman? Look at her clothes." Then the comments became audible, designed to wound. "It's probably a very elaborate public relations stunt. Poverty tourism, dear Alexandra." Alexandra tensed, feeling the irresistible impulse to run, but Ethan's small, warm hand clutched her arm. "Mum, please don't leave," he pleaded. "I like Miss Jordan. She's like a real superhero." Chapter 3. The venomous comments from the government table circulated loudly, calculated to be overheard. Attorney Catherine Petton, the social queen of the elite circles, raised her perfectly sculpted eyebrows. "I sincerely thought the distinguished Hayes family dined exclusively with the established elite," she announced, her tone combining feigned surprise with undisguised disdain. "Since exactly when do we do poverty tourism, dear Alexandra? What a calculated and transparent spectacle." Alexandra's jaw tensed until her teeth audibly ground. Her elegant hands closed into tight fists beneath the white linen tablecloth. The almost irresistible impulse to stand up and end this public humiliation was overwhelming. She could physically feel dozens of eyes on her, judging, speculating, creating malicious narratives that would be in tomorrow's blogs. But then Ethan's small, warm hand clutched her arm. "Mum, please don't leave," he pleaded. "I like Miss Jordan. She's like a real superhero." Lily, hearing the comment and instinctively feeling the need to defend her mother, stood up on her chair. Her small body trembled with pure, protective indignation. "My mum is better than all of you put together," she shouted, her clear voice cutting through the restaurant's murmur like an emergency siren. "She works harder than any person in this place. She can fix anything that breaks. You all just sit in expensive places and are cruel to good people." Ethan instantly stood beside her in unshakable solidarity. "Miss Jordan is better than all the chauffeurs and assistants who work in my huge house. She knows how to really smile. You all only know how to be important and cruel." Alexandra found herself smiling, a genuine human smile, full of vulnerable warmth. It was the innocent, passionate defense of Jordan by the children, a moment of unshakable loyalty that her cold political world rarely allowed. In that precise moment, Alexandra understood that Jordan, the humble worker in her mended shirt, was indisputably the most honorable woman in that entire room. But the moment of clarity was brutally interrupted by the return of reality. Jordan, focused only on the crushing weight of her own situation, opened the elegant menu once more. She located the cheapest dish for mushroom risotto for $380, rehearsed the words in her mind. "I'll order the mushroom risotto," she told the waiter, keeping her voice as firm as possible. Lily studied the menu with serious concentration. "Mum, can I order the spaghetti bolognese? It says it's the chef's specialty. The dish cost exactly $520. Panic surged in Jordan's throat. The waiter, a middle-aged man with a condescending air, finally looked toward their table with calculated disdain. His eyes moved slowly, insultingly, from Jordan's cheap plastic watch to her visibly mended shirt. He addressed her directly, ostentatiously ignoring the district attorney seated beside her. "Excuse me, ma'am," he drawled, the condescension dripping from his voice. "I need to confirm something important. Can you really afford the dishes being ordered? The spaghetti bolognese is a premium item. Here at Lumiere, we don't accept charity, and frankly, I need to make sure there won't be any awkward problems when presenting the final bill." The entire restaurant fell into a heavy silence. Jordan's face turned bright red with absolute humiliation. Hot tears stung behind her eyes, but she repressed them. "I'll take care of paying my bill," she managed to whisper, her voice strangled. Alexandra's eyes instantly ignited with a glacial, lethal fury. The emotional temperature at the table dropped 10 degrees. When she spoke, her voice had the same deadly, cutting tone she reserved for intense interrogations. "Bring immediately for complete servings of the spaghetti bolognese," she ordered, allowing no room for argument. "And also add the best red wine from your entire cellar. Send the complete absolutely everything directly to my personal corporate account at the district attorney's office. Do you have any questions about these perfectly clear instructions?" The waiter physically stepped back, his face losing all color. He stuttered incoherent apologies before Alexandra dismissed him with an icy command. "Get out of my sight right now." But the brief moment of victory was ephemeral. Alexandra's personal assistant, Sarah, efficient and visibly panicked, burst dramatically into the room. District Attorney Hayes, ma'am. Absolute emergency of maximum priority. She shouted over the hushed crowd. Deputy Dar Thornton is actively trying to remove you from your position. They're convening a special session to formally invoke the incapacity clause. They have compromising evidence. The restaurant froze. Alexandra's face, normally carved in marble, turned sickly pale. Her right hand began to tremble uncontrollably, then her entire body, the accumulated pressure of years, the impossible battles, the single motherhood, the merciless scrutiny finally broke her completely. Her eyes glazed over, her breathing became shallow and rapid. She was suffering a complete physical collapse. Jordan observed her with laser intensity. Years of dormant military medical training instantly activated like a switch. She recognized the signs. Severe acute stress leading to imminent hypoglycemic collapse. Without immediate intervention, Alexandra would faint in 60 seconds. Jordan didn't hesitate for a microsecond. She grabbed the glass of water and 3 sugar packets from a nearby coffee service, tore them open with her teeth, mixed the solution, and pushed the glass into Alexandra's trembling hands. "Drink it all right now. No arguing," she ordered with the voice of a medical officer on a battlefield. Alexandra obeyed, swallowing the sweetened water in long, desperate gulps. 3 minutes later, her breathing stabilized, and color slowly returned to her cheeks. She looked up at Jordan, her professional defenses completely gone. "Why?" Alexandra asked, her voice trembling like a small, frightened girl's. "Why did you help me? You don't owe me anything after how they treated you here, after what I allowed to happen." Jordan's gaze moved from Alexandra to Ethan, who was clutching his mother's arm in absolute terror. "Because your son needs his mother alive and functional," Jordan said simply, with the same soft voice she used to cut his pasta. "No child should carry that trauma. That's reason enough." Chapter 4. Once Alexandra was stable enough to walk, she discreetly ushered Jordan and the children into the Lumière's exclusive VIP lounge. It was a sanctuary of dark Italian leather and polished mahogany, thick doors shutting out the judgmental whispers of the main dining room. Ethan and Lily instantly began a loud, joyful game of tag around the large table, creating a bubble of normalcy within the storm. Alexandra finally allowed herself to sit, letting her guard down entirely. "They're trying to remove me," she admitted, her voice low and fragile. "Deputy Dar Thornton needed a public medical crisis, and I just handed him one on camera." Jordan looked at her, now seeing not a powerful prosecutor, but a woman running on empty. "That's why you experienced the stress response," Jordan analyzed, her professional mind taking over. "You are completely exhausted." Alexandra was stunned. "You read that with frightening precision. What is your background?" Before Jordan could answer, Ethan ran in, breathless, demanding, "Tell the story about when you saved someone." Alexandra looked at Jordan, curiosity overriding her panic. Jordan sighed, the weight of a long-buried secret lifting from her shoulders. "I was an emergency trauma physician in the military," she confessed. "I specialized in combat medicine. That's why I recognized your symptoms instantly." She paused, the memory clouding her eyes. "But I left the field after my wife died in surgery. I was deployed, consulting by phone. I gave guidance, but it failed. I felt my career had created a distance that ultimately killed her. I traded saving the world for simply securing Lily's world." Alexandra's eyes softened, a profound recognition passing between them. Then Ethan suddenly stopped playing. His face went white, and he clutched his small chest. "Mum, I'm scared. You'll disappear." He hyperventilated, the trauma of seeing her collapse hitting him hard. Jordan moved instantly, scooping Ethan into her arms. Panic attack. Triggered by seeing his security compromised, she murmured, holding him tight. "Breathe with me." She demonstrated a slow, rhythmic pattern, a technique honed on combat veterans. Minutes later, Ethan relaxed against her. "You smell like clean air," he murmured. Alexandra watched, tears streaming down her face, realizing that her wealth, her ambition, had robbed her son of this fundamental physical security. The door burst open again. Sarah, the assistant, her face pale, announced, "The video is going viral. Thornton's office is preparing the papers now. It's over." Alexandra sank into her chair, defeated. Jordan stood up, the doctor's determination returning. "It is not over," she stated firmly. "They are using your motherhood against you. They leaked that video specifically to invoke the incapacity clause, framing your stress response as inherent weakness. We must reframe this. We turn the collapse into testimony of sacrifice." Alexandra invited Jordan back to her mansion. They strategized late into the night. Jordan redefined the battle. The issue was not Alexandra's competency, but the misogynistic and predatory political culture that demanded women be inhumanly perfect. The next morning, Jordan, impeccably dressed in clothes borrowed from Alexandra, entered the high-stakes office board meeting. Lily and Ethan walked ahead of them, their hands linked, a silent, powerful testament to their union. Jordan broke down the viral video not as a medical event, but as a political hit. She presented the medical evidence proving the collapse was acute stress from a coordinated attack, not chronic instability. "This is not character analysis," Jordan told the stunned board. "This is a character assassination." Deputy de Thornton used a human moment of weakness to make a power grab against a woman who dared to prioritize her child. Even by accident, Jordan produced documented evidence of Thornton's coordinated leak. The board turned against him instantly. "Gentlemen," Alexandra declared, regaining her full authority, "this is Dr. Jordan Martinez. She saved my life yesterday. She is my new strategic advisor." Jordan looked directly at Alexandra. "I'll only accept this position if Lily and Ethan are part of the agreement." Ethan rushed forward, clinging to Jordan. "Stay forever." Alexandra's eyes, soft and clear, met Jordan's. "I want you to stay, as my partner." Lily bounced excitedly. "Are we sisters now?" "I think we are," Jordan replied, smiling. The final scene took place on the mansion terrace. Alexandra and Jordan stood side by side, no longer the cold Dar and the struggling cleaner, but two women united by shared vulnerability and mutual respect. They had beaten a system that tried to divide them based on class and crush them for their sacrifices. They knew they didn't need to choose between being powerful professionals and nurturing mothers. They had learned that true, lasting power came from collaboration and unconditional presence. They watched as Lily and Ethan ran across the lawn, their laughter echoing freely. The setting sun cast four intertwined shadows onto the grass. Alexandra took Jordan's hand, a powerful, protective squeeze. They had not just survived, they had forged a new path. A path where two women, deriving strength from their inherent resilience and capacity for deep connection, could thrive and succeed simply by defining success on their own terms.